Chris Howard, it's great to see you. Thanks for your time today. The intersection of artificial intelligence and cyber, obviously a big topic here. What do people understand and what should people understand better about that intersection in your view?
Yeah, well, first is that with AI, it's very confusing. You look around the room, everyone does AI, and there's so many different facets and capabilities. But from a customer perspective, I think they think of generative AI. Mm-hmm. They think of ChatGPT and LLMs and OpenAI, and which is fantastic. It has its use cases and it has its deficiencies from a cyber perspective. But with what we do as a company and what a lot of companies provide value with is that we have purpose-built algorithms and machine learning that can ingest quickly through sensors the vast amount of data that is coming across our networks and make sense of it better than any human or mass amount of humans can. There's so much alerts and so much data coming across, it's just not feasibly possible to determine what is a real threat and what isn't a real threat. A lot of it is just noise. And you're talking hundreds of millions to billions of alerts a year. And without some sort of automation or machine learning or AI, if you use it in the right terminology, it's impossible to sift through that and gain awareness to what is just noise or an anomaly and what is a real threat. So I think the intersection is interesting just because you have to give people an understanding of what AI they're using and what value it provides, and also what risks it can eliminate. Because once again, the biggest problem that we're trying to solve is that human analysts don't have the stamina. They don't have, I don't want to say brain power because there's tons of smart people, but they just can't piece together and stitch together the narrative to really understand what is truly malicious and what's just different. And different isn't bad. Yeah. So I think that's the biggest challenge that we have as an organization talking to our customers.
You kind of alluded to where I wanted to go next, and that is the value that artificial intelligence adds to that data analysis primarily quantity or primarily quality of analysis in your view?
Oh, well, it's both. But I think the biggest thing is quantity. Mm-hmm. Right now, people are overloaded with just alerts. And how do we make sense of what is a true malicious activity? We have to go into a situation where you have to assume you're compromised. And if you don't assume you're compromised, you're kind of got your head in the sand and you're not living in in what's truly happening today. So the quality of the data that is provided to the SOC analyst or the CISO through AI is, first off, it's much quicker to resolution. Number two, it's not just one single anomaly. It's a bunch of different behaviors, hosts, profiles, settings that are all aggregated and provided with a narrative. So by the time it's escalated as a real threat, then it truly is a real threat. If you're just going off of a simple anomaly and trying to correlate it with other activity through just a log analysis, it's, maybe 6-8 months from now, you might have some idea. And traditional, they use signatures as a base of cybersecurity. The way that threat actors work today, they change every minute, every hour, and they're getting a lot more active with the tools and the methodologies. And once again, you just can't gain that visibility through human people and through logs. So you have to incorporate some sort of AI. In my opinion, obviously, I'm somewhat biased because I'm offering a technology that does that. But without it, we're just not going to stay ahead of the adversaries. It's hard enough with AI to stay ahead of the adversaries because they're also using generative AI to, attack and use threats. So I think it's both quality and quantity, but I think the quantity is just overwhelming. You can't get around the number of threats that are coming across a desk. One of our customers told us they average 2 billion alerts a month. How can you do that without some sort of automation or machine learning?
You made a point earlier that I think is really important to call out, and that is there's a difference between something that shows up as different and something that shows up as malicious. Mm-hmm. How are organizations getting at training their algorithms to be able to distinguish between the two in an automated enough fashion that then they can push that to a human to eyeball it and determine and make that differentiation?
Yeah, and that's a great question. It's very challenging. But the way that it has to be done is, once again, I've said the word narrative and stitching together. So just because something is different doesn't mean it's malicious. But as you look at successive actions, and there's a number of those that can take place when you're looking at your users, your profiles, your hosts. So once you identify that this malicious actor, they have to take the same steps every time, almost every time. They may use different tools along the way, but the steps, they have to open a C2 channel or do some recon, take over privilege. So once you stitch together that narrative, that first anomaly now becomes something that is truly malicious. And it's hard to get to that point without some sort of automation and AI. And we could, companies like us, we do it with supervised learning models, unsupervised learning models. We have a catalog of about 168 algorithms that are purpose-built to think like an attacker and understand the behaviors that they have to take. So I think that is a huge value to a customer, to get away from just the traditional perimeter approach and looking at logs. That's just not going to do it anymore.
How are the agencies doing at being able to build their systems so that the algo can say, this is bad versus this is something you should at least look at and analyze? Or is that even desirable?
No, it's not desirable at all. Yeah,
okay.
I don't think that an agency or any commercial company should spend a lot of time building their own models and training them. There's a lot of companies out there that have been doing this for 10, 15 years. They have a vast amount of data scientists and security-led engineers that work hand in hand, understanding the problem statement and then designing the algorithm. It can't be, it's these two teams work together. And I think, that's why industry is here, right? We're here to assist. It's not always the best method to build your own or do your own. Now, if you want to augment models or build your own models at the same time, that's fine, but you have to have a more comprehensive approach to really tackle the situation, because the adversarial approach and the nation state actors, malicious actors, they're not slowing down, they're not stopping, and the population of them is growing, and the speed at which they try to gain access to our networks is growing. I mean, these are happening every second of every day. So, but back to the point of the models, I think there's companies out there that have perfected it and spent a lot of money to do it. So I think for a customer to try to build their own team and build those, I just think it's not a waste of time, but it's not the best use of time at all.
Chris, it's great to talk to you as always.
I appreciate it. Thank you for having me.